I don't know Alicia. I don't know Alicia, but thanks. Thanks, girl.
That's a really sweet compliment. Oh my goodness.
I know.
Okay, so we should be going live right now, y'all. Let's see. I'm gonna try and get us back. There we go. Got our Zoom screen, managing it all. So welcome everybody. Whoever's showing up with us again today, we thank you, or this evening. I guess it depends on what time zone you're in. Thank you so much for joining us again. We've had some really interesting conversations in the last few weeks, and really since COVID started. I think we started these conversations. So tonight we have Shalynne Bolling with us, which I call Shay. Shay, do you go by Shay?
Everyone calls me Shay.
Everyone calls you Shay.
Everyone
Okay.
calls me Shay.
I've always called you Shay.
Yeah.
So I think when your name popped, when you did your story with Risk Takers, Dream Makers, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Shalynne.
Did you never know that?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that. Yeah. So yeah, I learned something new from somebody I've known a long time. So yeah, if you're joining in on Facebook, let us know you're here. Say hey to Shay. Say hey to Andrea. Say hey to Anne. Just give us a shout out. Let us know where you're coming from too. We always like to know all the different reaches around the US and the world even that we connect with. And so let me just go on and get started, but kind of tune in if you're even watching this as a replay. Go on and let us know your name and that you're here and you're showing up. And again, let us know where you're coming from. So my name is Ann Barwick, and I am the co-founder of Risk Takers, Dream Makers. I also am the owner of a business, A Strong You, where I do leadership and personal development coaching. Love my clients. But Andrea Kiesling and I started this project a year and a half ago, the Risk Takers, Dream Makers, where we really love highlighting stories of women who have pursued their passionate purpose. And most all of them have taken a lot of risks to do it, but they've pushed through those. And we love sharing these stories because we want to champion whatever their project is, their business, their nonprofit, their cause that they've sought after. But also to inspire all of you out there who maybe have been thinking about a dream, something's been tapping you on your shoulder, and it's something you've been excited to do, but maybe just couldn't push through to get it done yet. And so we hope by these stories that we inspire you to know that we've all pushed through hardships to get where we are. So we want to support you with that and know it can take you to some great places. So I'll introduce my co-founder, Andrea Kiesling, or I'll let Andrea tell you about what she does.
Thank you, Anne. Yes, I'm Andrea Kiesling, co-founder of RTDM and founder of Andrea Kiesling Coaching, where I do values, mindset, and accountability coaching. As Anne mentioned, RTDM is our mission is to just share and celebrate stories of everyday women living their dreams, like Shay. So we're so thankful to have her on tonight to share her story, some of the risks that she's taken, and how she's living her dream. This is what we love to do, share these stories. So I hope y'all will celebrate Shay with us tonight. We're glad that you've joined us. This talk is designed to be very interactive. So please feel free to comment, ask questions. Shay has very generously allowed questions. So please feel free to add those in. Even if you're watching the recorded video, feel free to throw in questions and we'll do our best to answer those for you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. So I'd love to introduce to y'all Shay. I'll tell you a little backstory on Shay. I know Shay again from school, and I maybe before, I don't know, our girls are in Girl Scouts together.
Right.
And I can't remember, did that happen before school?
That happened, no.
That happened after.
Yeah, after I had Hope.
Okay, so yeah, she was even a teacher, worked with my children at school, and also just been a part of our life through Girl Scouts, and a good friend as well. So really excited to have Shay joining us tonight and telling us kind of her story of what she pursued. So Shay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. As Ann said, my name's Shay Bolling. Shalynne is my full name. Surprise to Ann tonight. I'm from Pennsylvania, married, so I'm a wife, a mom, a small business owner. My small business is still fairly new. This is our second year of business. Flower Power is a kids cooking studio where we teach children to cook home style meals. Kids as young as preschool all the way up to teens. We do adult events, Girl Scouts. Our Girl Scout troop has come. We have camps and birthday parties. I was a teacher prior to that for 14 years. Just always had that innate sense to connect with kids. I've always loved to cook. I come from a family of really good cooks. And when I don't want to say I lost my passion for teaching, but I knew that I wanted something else for my life. I had a lot of years to continue working, and I knew that I needed something else to light my fire. So when I left teaching, I remember the moment sitting at my counter thinking, what do I like? What am I good at? And how can I combine those two to do the next thing, whatever that might be? So I started a cooking club at school with a friend, and it was a really big hit. And I thought, hey, this can be a thing. So I started to do some research and found Flower Power and took the risk, which is totally unlike me. If anybody knows me, I'm not a risk taker at all. But I knew that I also wanted to be an example for my two girls. My husband and I have two daughters, and I wanted them to know that they don't have to settle. If they want to do something else, you can do it. The sky's the limit. You can do it. And it's going to be hard work, but it's possible.
Yeah, pivots are okay, right? Like making a shift. And so it's interesting. So you just jogged my memory. As you could tell, I have a pretty
I'm sorry, my home phone is ringing.
That's all right, we'll let it ring. You just jogged my memory that the way we did meet was when you taught Hope. I think that's the first time we met as you as the teacher. So I'm realizing all the different ways that you and I have connected there. So thanks for jogging my memory on that. So I remember being so excited for my daughter to have you as a teacher. What grade was that in?
First grade.
First grade. Okay. Yeah. You were such a phenomenal teacher.
Thank you.
So I got to experience you in that capacity. And then, so that shift to pivot, and even though it was some might think that's a big jump, but really it stayed connected to your love with children. Mm-hmm. So Flower Power is it's mainly for kids for cooking.
But we mostly cater to children. Yeah, we've got weekly classes every single week. Camp is going on right now. We do kids night out we have this week. So I still get to be connected to the kids, and just I have a hobby of cooking, and so I still get to do. It's fun, and there's a lot of back end work, of course, when you own your own business. But being with the kids is really, really what I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool because you kind of got to blend your two things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody may say, well, I love teaching, I love cooking, how could I blend those? But you figured out a way to do that, which is, that's awesome.
It's fun too, which is nice.
Yeah, and have fun at the same time. I just saw, some of your colleagues, the people from the school. So Kwan just joined on. She says, hello, ladies.
Hello.
Oh, and Mrs. O. Everybody, Andrea, if you were in our community, everybody knows Mr. and Mrs. O because they're both teachers at our school. So dear loved teachers.
And the school has been such a support system with my former coworkers. They come to Flower Power with their classes for field trips. So Mrs. O has come, Mrs. Nels has come. So it's been really, really great to have the support from the community.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you said, one of the things you said is like, you're not typically the adventurous one, you're a little more calculated in your decisions and things like that. And I have the benefit of knowing your husband. And he is definitely the one that maybe is more of the what you might consider a risk taker.
He is
in
absolutely
your
risk taker.
family. So did he have any push in you, or was it just like how did you know this is what you were going to do?
So answer the part about my husband, he was always a support for it. He knew I was not happy in the classroom anymore. And so we had just conversation. He's like, well, don't do it. Find something else. So he was always pretty supportive in me just doing whatever it was that was going to make me satisfied again. To feel kind of like that, just the void that I was feeling teaching. And it wasn't the school at all. It was just education in general was not what was lighting my fire anymore. And if you get only one life. So I wanted, to keep my fire lit. What was the second part of your question?
Well, I was just wondering, when you got to that place and you were contemplating that and you knew like there's something here with what I'm doing right now that's a little draining.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the school or the kids or anything like that, but it sounds like there was a tapping on your shoulder that there was something out there that you should do that would maybe align more with your passionate purpose. So what, like when you felt that and you kind of knew it, what was your next step? Like, how did you go from teaching and do that pivot?
Yeah. So we started doing some research about, did I want to start on my own? Did I want to do a franchise? Flower Power is a franchise. And it just felt right. When I started doing it at the school, I thought this is something I can really do. This is something I can enjoy. And it was just time to take the leap. I just felt like it just felt right. You just get that gut feeling, and that was it. So we did the research and went on our path. It wasn't once I did the research and felt like it could really be a thing, it wasn't really a hard decision to make in that way. I never had a doubt and I hope this doesn't sound like I know everything, because I don't, but I never had a doubt that I was not going to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. I knew that once I set my mind on it, I was going to not attack it, but go through with it and do it to the best of my ability. So it wasn't really a question at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said is your gut. You felt it in your gut.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more we talk with risk takers, it's more when they listen to their gut and their heart, that they tend to, like you said, kind of attack it, go for it. It tends to be more when we get all caught up in our mind and we overthink it is where we tend to stall.
Which is typically what I do. So this was really out of the ordinary for me to just kind of take a leap and do it. But I did, and I'm happy I did.
Yeah, you really listened to it. Sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
I just asked, so Shay, was it really that easy? You said you remember like sitting at your counter and coming up with a list of what I love to do and what I'm good at. I mean, was it really that easy for you to just say, I love cooking, this is what I want to do, I'm going to turn it into a business?
Well, it wasn't like an overnight decision. I didn't work after I left teaching. I think it was probably a year or so of just kind of thinking about what's going to be next. And I thought about teaching preschool. I went through a bunch of different other things I could do, and none of them really felt like that's going to make me happy for a long time. I want to just settle on something. So, but it really was, I remember the moment at the counter, there really was that moment really truly happened where I was like, how can I really do just something that I love and that I'm already pretty decent at doing. Mm-hmm. And then I just put those together.
That was the big aha. So
it was.
I know, and I think you talked about this a little bit in your Risk Takers, Dream Makers story, that, and I remember this when you were looking for the building for you to work in, and that was, there were a lot of roadblocks that were kind of put up in front of you. And I always really admired your perseverance, because a lot of people could have been like, yeah, this is too much, but you pushed through those roadblocks. What got you pushing through those?
Faith, really. A lot of it was out of my control. And again, if you know me, I like control. I'm very type A in that way. I like to know what's happening next. And if I can control the situation in any way, it usually happens that way. A little bossy sometimes. um, so much of it was out of our control with the building that we thought was going to be it. I didn't have a choice but to keep going and to believe that it was going to work out, because we were in it at that point. So there was no turning around and saying, oh, we're just not going to do it. That was never an option. And the building that we are in now, we actually, well, my husband saw a year before we actually signed the lease, and we thought, meh. And I didn't see it at that point. I got a speeding ticket that morning, so I had to go take care of that. But a year later, I saw it, and it was, again, a gut feeling. I walked in, and it was, this is it. I could see it there. And I didn't have that in the other space, and I just kept thinking, well, this is it, this is it, this is it. And doors just kept closing for that space. And then finally, it was just like, this is happening for a reason. The universe here is trying to tell me something. So, and then when I walked into the space where we are now, it again felt right. And it is a pretty perfect space for what we do.
Yeah, you really leaned on your faith there. It sounds like that whole,
Absolutely.
like everything happens for a reason. And
Yeah.
even though this seems like one door is shutting, it really, that one space kind of not working out worked out in your favor, that it sent you to the place that really aligned best with you.
It did. We had a whole lot of stuff going on in our life at that point, on top of trying to find a great spot for our business. And we just had to really just lean on our faith and say, okay, this isn't it. What's next?
Yeah.
And it came up.
That's awesome. That I hope a lot of people hear that are thinking of pursuing some of their dreams, and that doesn't mean that the road is perfectly paved, that you go down and everything just works out, but
the road is more like,
yeah, like, whoa, yeah,
and then up again. It's not a straight path at all, the whole process. But I feel like anything worth doing is, you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
So Shay, can you talk more about your just kind of relying on your gut? Because Anne, I think you might agree, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about this. A lot of times in coaching, we encourage our clients to rely on that gut sense. How did you know that was kind of your gut pushing you in this direction? And also, at what point of your life did you decide to kind of lean more lean into that gut feeling, as opposed to, you're someone like me who likes to control things and know and plan and all those things. And sometimes for people that are like that, it's hard for them to step outside of that and kind of have that sense of trust and, to lean into their gut. So can you talk more about that process?
I think just with some of the personal things we had going on, there was a push for me to make a decision. I couldn't waver. But also, again, I enjoyed it, and it didn't feel like it was going to be work per se. And I felt like there was something to be said to my girls about what I was doing. So that made it a little bit easier for me. They knew that I was not happy teaching anymore, and I didn't want to come home not happy anymore. So that was a big deal. I wanted to come home and be present for them. And in some ways I'm still bringing work home, but it feels more like it's for us, not just for everybody else's kids, but not mine. So they see me working for us, and they want to be a part of it too. So that was a big part of it for me, that was like, well, what do I want my girls to see me do, next? How do I want them? I don't want them to see me coming home miserable, but not doing anything about it. So that was a big push for me too. Again, my husband was like, do whatever's going to make you, in his typical fashion, do whatever's going to make you happy. Which thankfully he is like that. One of us has to be. It just really just felt like, knowing the type of person that I am, there really wasn't a question for me. So when it kept coming back to this is a good idea. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. You can do this. Like, I felt like I had to push forward to at least try.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you say that about, well, we're all three mothers, and I know Andrea's children are much younger, but I know for me, and it sounds like for you, Shay, finding work that aligned with my passion, coming home and not feeling drained, but feeling it filled me up. So I'd come home and have more to give to my family, even if I was working the same hours, just having more to give back. And I think for my daughters, it was good for them to see me feeling passionate about my work and my profession. And also I was just nicer, I think.
Well, I hope my family can say that.
Sure they do.
I still definitely have a lot of work to do, and they see me working a lot, but I feel like they see the purpose in my work now, and they see the value in it. And, our older daughter now is a part of it and comes, and she works there too. And they think it's cool that this is ours and not just, mommy's job.
Yeah, that's really cool. You've got the girls involved too. So
Yeah. Well, they like to cook too.
yeah. So, in our talks, and I think Kwan's joining us via Facebook tonight, but in our past 2 talks, we've talked with Kwan and Demetra about kind of just all that's going on in our world right now, especially with the anti-racism movements. And so I think, we'd be remiss not to bring that up and hear from you. How has racism played a part in your life, with you, with your girls, with Nate?
Yeah. Where to start with this one, Anne?
I know that's
a lot to say.
We need like a couple days, right?
So I guess a little backstory, because I am light skinned and a lot of people don't know what I am. I'm Black. Both of my parents are Black. But my family beautifully represents all shades of Black. I'm, fair skinned. My mom is brown. So growing up, I think I was always kind of a mystery. One of my very best friends, who I think is watching right now, thought I was Hawaiian for the first probably 2 years of our friendship. So I think people not knowing, I get questions, or I've heard, that they've asked other people, what are you? That came up a lot growing up, in some not so nice ways. So I've had that. I have also had the name calling of various forms growing up. And people want to really put you in a box when they don't know what you are, so to speak. They really want to fit you somewhere. And I think my girls are sometimes dealing with that too right now, when people aren't sure. They either get scared or they say some really dumb things sometimes. So I've had a lot of that from both sides of the coin, to be fair. I've had it from white people and I've had it from Black people too. And that's just my story. As a child, I grew up in a mostly white neighborhood. But when people saw my mom, when I got to about 3rd grade, I remember getting called some names on the school bus. And I never said a word for some reason. I never said a word until much later. My mom, handled it accordingly. Again, in middle school, it happened on the bus, the things that happen on the school bus, right?
Yeah.
And I never said a word again. And I finally told my mom, and she took care of it then. But I think I'm glad that people are talking now and then know that it's okay to ask questions. And I think you touched on this with Kwan and Demetra, just the intent behind the questions and what you say is a factor in that. I don't have a problem answering questions about my race or, culture and Black culture in general, but come at me from a place of curiosity, not a place of lesser than.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So the intent
Mhm.
behind it means a lot. And, you know, even Quan and I were talking about how, you know, Quan's raising two African-American boys, right? And you've got two girls and you're in a mixed marriage.
Yeah.
So yeah, for those
And
of you.
that's like such an afterthought for me. Like I didn't even think to say, oh, by the way, my husband is white. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even think,
Yeah.
didn't think to say it.
It's
Yeah.
funny you didn't say that. I thought, yeah, I know you, but
Yeah.
for those of you, those watching that don't, yeah. So Shay's husband is white.
Yeah.
So like, how does it affect your girls? Quan, you know, told us a lot about how she had to prep her boys and prepare them. And, you know, but I think she was even curious, how is it different with girls? And that your girls are very light skinned as well, if that makes a
Yeah.
difference.
So I think I shared this story with you earlier, and is whenever my girls were younger, being the person that I am, I took them somewhere. Like every day we did something. We went to the park, or we went here, you know, Wednesday we did this, Tuesday we did this, or whatever. So I went to this park for months, and I would see the same women there with their kids. And my kids are very different. One has blonde hair and blue eyes, one has dark hair and brown eyes. And when they were younger, they could or could not have been related if you didn't know us. We were that family that when people saw us together, they were like, oh, I get it. You know, they could see it then.
Yeah, all together. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
But a woman came up to me and said, how long have you been watching them? How long have you been their nanny? She just automatically assumed that I was not their mother. And we talked about how that very well could have been a bunch of different things. You know, my kids could have been adopted for all she knew, or
Mhm.
I've experienced that, and what that does to you as a mom, that fire that lights in you in that moment. You know, I chose to just say, you know, they're mine, and kind of walk away from that woman. But I would have never thought to say that to someone. You know, I would have never, and had I been white, would she have said that to me? Probably not. My girls we're having some hard conversations with them, but very real conversations with them. My girls are both very light skinned, but you know, when all of the media stories were coming out, you know, Nate and I had a talk, and I actually said, like, I was heartbroken to say, what if we had boys? Like, this would be even harder if we had boys. Like, but that is reality. So my girls and I and Nate, we've had lots of hard, heavy, serious conversations lately about just what's happening, how it's not new, how it's been happening,
Mhm.
and what they can do if they see it. People, again, my kids have that ambiguity that people don't know what they are either, and they try to put them in a box. Our older daughter has been told that, you know, she's not Black enough. Our younger daughter hasn't, that I know of, had anything like that said to her, but she's got very, very curly hair, and my hair is curly when I don't straighten it. So people are constantly, you know, like touching it, and which is not what you want. If you have curly hair, girls, that is not what you want. You don't
Don't
want
touch
to
the
get
hair,
white in
it's
your hair. It just makes it curlier and frizzy.
No.
And I think people are curious, but my older daughter is really getting questioned about, you know, what are you? She's getting the same questions that I got. And we've had talks about how to deal with that, and how she wants to answer or choose not to answer. I make a conscious choice to believe that people are genuinely curious. Um, and I don't have anything to be ashamed of, or so, you know, I'll put it out there, but that's my personality. You know, if some people with their story and their history are a little more defensive about things, and again, it's the intent. It depends on how the question is brought to me. So I've been talking to my girls a lot about people's intentions too. And some of it, a lot of it, I should say, is learned. Also, in things that they can't control. I feel like I'm going in circles now about what you asked me.
No, I
I
think
could go
this is
on and on.
all really enlightening information. It's very, yeah, it's very interesting to hear. Because I've never talked to you about that and what your girls may have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and how people want to have things defined.
Yeah, I do.
That's but in the intent and the idea of you being so gracious to just assume most people's intent is to not be hateful about it.
I do. I mean, there is hate. There is hate out there for certain. That is not a question at all. I just, and maybe it's just easier for me. I think I would rather somebody ask me than assume anything about me or about my family. Just ask. But that's my personality.
Yeah, I think, well, that's kind of why we started some of these conversations, is just like for people who don't feel comfortable asking to maybe hear, like, let's just open up and have conversations about it, ask. But then I also think there's a point of like, what you ask, like who would go up and ask somebody, are you the nanny? When, like, if you don't know that, I mean, why would you, just like you wouldn't go up and say, are your kids adopted to somebody
Right.
necessarily. So I guess have open conversations, but also make sure it's coming from a place, and maybe that person didn't have any kind of bad intent, but make sure, like, think about your why behind your questions.
Yeah.
Why do you need to know that? Why is that curiosity? What does that say about you?
Yeah. I've had to have conversations too with specifically my older daughter, who, she's getting older and going to high school, and just because they're girls and because they're light skinned, I feel like sometimes that gives them somewhat of a pass per se. I think it is safe for people to befriend them, and me too. That's a safe bet for people. We're just Black enough in that way. But we've had to have conversations, again, my older daughter and I, about, what's going to happen when she starts dating, and if she chooses to date a man of color, what that could look like if the two of them are out together and I'm not around, or her dad's not around, and something happens. What could happen? What that man's reality is compared to what her dad's is, who is blue-eyed and bald. If something happens with my kids and they're dating, a Black man or Hispanic man or any man of color, it'll be a shock to them because their dad is white. So when he gets pulled over, or, he's not nervous like her date might be. We've had to have those types of conversations, that it could be a reality that they have not experienced.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So because I'm in a book club, we just started reading White Fragility, and I'd say I'm the minority in that group, in the sense that my entire family is white. But one of the women who is white and is married to an African American said, she just never even thought about it, but she said, I am racist, like, not in a derogatory way, but just realizing the way she's taken, the things that she's been given and that he hasn't, the advantages that she's had. But it was interesting to hear that, because I think, there she is, white, married to a Black man, and kind of having to learn all of that, right? And what he's been up against for so long. So yeah, sounds like some of your daughters may experience that as well.
Yeah.
At some point.
We do have a question, Anne, so I can
go ahead and let us know.
So Shay, how do you build their confidence, talking about your daughters, in their uniqueness? It's wonderful that they can embrace their history on both sides of their family.
Yeah. So we'll start with hair. Hair is a big deal in the Black community, or at least I think so in my experience. And we can wear our hair in all different wonderful ways. It can be curly, it can be straight, it can be in dreads, it can be all braided, whatever. So one of the things that I really tried to consciously do was keep my hair curly for a while. it mostly is curly all the time now. This is not the norm. For my younger daughter, because her hair is very, very curly and very kind of all over the place when it's beautiful, but when she doesn't take care of it, it's kind of all over the place. So just letting her know that it's okay to be curly. She doesn't have to look like, her hair doesn't have to look like, her BFF's hair. That's one of the things that I do consciously do, is model for her that it's okay to not look like everybody else, and be confident in that. It's okay to leave the house. I think a lot of this too is just modeling what you want for your girl to be a strong adult. It's not even always a black and white thing. I want my kids to know it's okay to leave the house without makeup. It's okay to leave the house with your hair in a bun and whatever. It's okay to just be you and be confident in what makes you happy, not everybody else. Because I always tell them, haters are gonna hate. So you can't be bothered with that, or you'll never be happy.
Yeah. If you let that rule you, nobody will be happy, right?
Yeah. So I think it's embracing your whole self in general. I really don't focus on skin in our home. We just focus on being the best you that you can be.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. And I can attest to that. I mean, I know your daughters, they are beautiful and vibrant, and their personalities, they're so authentic girls. And hopefully all of our girls will grow up and continue that the opinions of others in the world won't start to squash that authenticity that our kids have.
So many opinions, right?
So,
they always
so
got
many. Yeah, I mean, anybody that knows me pretty well knows I always say, what other people's opinions, what other people are saying about you is really none of your business.
Yeah.
Because if you start making it your business and start trying to shift to please or to change, then yeah, that's not working for anybody. So
that we're hearing right now is how important, all of this is to start at home. I mean, that's really where any of it starts. Like you said, Shay, a lot of this is learned behavior. So if we can teach our kids to have that kind of attitude towards others, but also to speak to each other in respectful, loving ways. I mean, it all starts right there. So it sounds like you're doing a tremendous job of not only that, but modeling how to live your dream from your business perspective, and do the thing that you are passionate and that you love. So that's really encouraging for all of us to see.
I do, and I hope that conversations like this spark conversations at home. I do feel like, and our kids' generation, I think their culture is more about acceptance right now. So I really hope that these conversations kind of spark some other conversations at home to get our kids not just talking, but actually doing something. I think I get really, really frustrated when we all get in this rah-rah mode, that wasn't fair, this shouldn't have happened. We all know that. We all know it's been happening, but then we kind of get settled back into where we were. So to move forward, to teach our kids, what can you do to stop this? Or what can you do to make the change? And to be the change. I hope that what you're doing with these interviews and is really sparking some good conversation about not just let's just talk about it, but what can you do to make the change?
Yeah, and what I hear you saying too, Shay, is on a continuing basis, not
Right.
just, okay, we've got a movement going on, everybody jump on the bandwagon for a month and then we go back to our normal ways. But it doesn't necessarily have to be huge,
Correct.
huge movements, but just it's really those small steps, but taking them on a sustainable, continuing basis.
Right. And I think maybe that's where people get intimidated, is they feel like you have to do this grandiose thing. And you don't, but just starting conversations like this about what can I do in my community? What can I do if somebody tells that off-color joke? Am I going to sit there and just, say nothing? Like, whatever, am I going to really stand up and say something this time to let them know that that's not cool?
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's interesting because I'm having these conversations I mean, really, I've had them with my daughters ever since we could have conversations, but to also, if someone says something that goes against our values, to not say we can't hang out with them anymore, but be there to help teach them. And maybe they can learn by our kids' examples. A lot of the kids are learning from home and their family, and that's what they're learning. It's ingrained in them. So for them to have other examples of how to live. And I think our girls, I know your girls well. I think our girls showed that.
I think it might be hard for people at first too. I tell, my kids, when you're standing up to someone, at first, all you can think about is, oh no, or you don't want to be the one that stands up. But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think practice. Honestly, we used to role play in our house when my kids were little about, and so they'd practice it at home, and I'd be the person that would be inappropriate and let them practice. They'd be like, Mom, can we practice role play again? So yeah, I mean, practice makes, then it turns into the way they hopefully can act naturally. Those actions can come naturally when they're out in the public and dealing with other people. So I know that you said in your interview, how you take care of yourself. I think what was one of the quotes we kind of gleaned from your story was, it's okay to take care of yourself, pause every now and then, and remember why you started. So I'm curious, how do you pause, Shay? Do you give yourself that pause?
That is a work in progress for me. I can get very, very focused and become a workaholic really easily. And a friend of mine that I met actually through Flower Power gave me a book this summer, or actually not, I say this summer, but really it was during quarantine, which feels like summer, right? That had a quote in it that said something about resting, like don't resist the rest or something like that. And it really resonated with me. This whole was a book study. And it was when I get like that and I feel myself, getting tired at the computer or doing something and totally forgetting what I'm doing because I'm so exhausted, I remember that quote, like, don't resist the rest. So there are times when my family will see me, they'll come home or they'll come in the room and I'm literally laying in the middle of the floor, just breathing, because I need that moment just to come down from work, just to recenter and just focus myself. I like to have a cocktail with my friends sometimes. I love a massage when those open again. I like to exercise. I'm a much nicer person when I exercise in the morning. But it is a work in progress. I have to remind myself that there is not a finish line with owning your own business. There's always something to do. And it's going to be there the next day. So I should just shut down and turn it off. And I've really, really been working on that, especially since the quarantine. Like, we've only been back full throttle the last couple of weeks with just making time to just be mom and wife and turn off my brain. And I will say to myself, sometimes I'm laying there and I really have to talk myself out of it. Like, okay, I'm not thinking about this right now. Like, it's self-talk. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you practice that kind of putting it to the side at times.
I'm trying. It's hard sometimes because, it's the business is my baby right now. It's a big deal. If I'm not thinking about it, nobody else is either. So, but it is, you've got to turn it off sometimes and sharpen the sword, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, okay. I know one of the things that you said in your story was when you get stressed, one of your indulgences to have brownies. I've got to ask, are they homemade? Are they made at Flower Power?
Not always. No. In fact, if I can do a little Aldi plug here, Aldi has the best. If you have not had Aldi box brownies, they are like 89 cents and they are delicious.
That's
like
a good.
The mix is in the box.
Yeah, you just add like the eggs in the water. Yeah, I will say, I cook most every night. Most every night I cook a homemade meal. So when it comes to brownie time and I'm really ready to indulge, the box is just fine. And they're good. They're really good.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm impressed you make a homemade meal every night. Don't tell my family that, please. Andrea, do we
enjoy it? I enjoy cooking for my family and knowing they're getting good stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the difference.
They're very lucky. And how about your girls? Do they have you passed on the love for cooking to them as well?
Yes. They don't necessarily work well in the kitchen together at the same time. But my younger daughter, she likes to bake. My older daughter loves like looking online for different foods to cook. And last week she made 2 like restaurant quality meals for us. They were really good.
They're a great team. That's incredible. It's done not in my adult life have I realized that the skill of cooking is just, it's kind of a lost art. Not a lot of people really know how to just, put ingredients together and make them work. I'm definitely one of them. So hearing that, I think that's just a wonderful skill to pass on.
Yeah, I would imagine a lot of people are reconnecting to that skill during our quarantine days.
Yeah. I have a lot of families that come in and they're like, we've never ever done simple things before. They don't know. I had a woman who didn't know what an apple slicer was, like the core. And it was just baffling to me that people don't know that.
So if we came in, if my family came into Flower Power, like we could come in as a family and
you could do a private family class.
Really? And what could we learn?
People love, you can learn pretty much anything. No seafood or nuts. People love making pasta for some reason. I think just because they've never done it. A lot of people just have never done it before.
Homemade pasta.
Yeah, like the noodles.
Okay.
They love making that with homemade sauce. And when you've had it, you'll realize that it's actually really, really easy and good, really good.
Oh, that's exciting. All right. I may you're opened with Flower Power now, right?
We are open. We are open now. Yep.
Okay.
Camps going on this week. Birthday parties. We had so many birthday parties last weekend. It was just so nice to be back, and like there's so much work behind it that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. But when I'm there and it's all unfolding, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of what we're doing, and to know that like, hey, I did that. Like every weekend I get that little like, yeah, I'm really doing it. And it's great to be a part of people celebrating their kids.
Yeah, I imagine that would that's got to be uplifting. Then to see families come in and connect and kids connect and they're having fun.
And they're super happy now just to be out. Like I just feel very honored and grateful that like every party that we had last week, the families were like, this is we haven't really done anything. This is awesome to be able to do this, that you're not closed anymore. You're not canceling things. And, kids are and they're socially distanced before anybody says, yes, they're socially distanced all around. And we're following the parameters we need to follow, but people are happy to be, food is a social thing. Yeah. People are happy to just be around each other and connecting again. I'm happy to be a part of that and grateful to be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Andrea, are there any questions, or do you want to wrap up with a few questions?
Yeah, so Shay, we'll ask you, what is the final bit of wisdom that you'd just like to share with our viewers? You've already given us a lot.
I would say go after your dream. If you are now sitting in a place where life has shut down whatever it is you were doing before, which has happened to a lot of people right now have lost their jobs or cut back hours, don't be afraid to chase it. I have a lot of anxiety about a lot of things just because I am such a control freak. But this is one of the things I do not regret, as hard as it is every single day, especially now with all that's going on in the world. this is not a decision that I regret in any way. This is not something I would ever tell my kids not to do because it's hard. It's going to be hard, but just think about what you love and turn that into something that can work for you.
That's great. Well, thank you, Shay. And before we let you go, will you please share how we can follow you, where we can find you, contact information?
Yeah, so we are at on social media, on IG and Facebook at Flower Power Lake Norman, and that's flour, Flour, the flour that you bake with or cook with, at Flower Power Lake Norman. And we're in Cornelius at the corner of Catawba Avenue and Old Statesville Road in the Antiquity Shopping Center, right by the Harris Teeter.
Okay.
I'm already excited. I've got visions of signing up my family early. Come in there and we'll learn how to make something. So I guess you can schedule online with you.
You can call. Our number is 704-929-2884. So you can call and talk to me and we can work out scheduling, or you can book online.
Awesome. I'll be calling you.
Sorry, Shay, 704-929-88.
704-929-2884.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay.
And that, for those of you who are tuning in from somewhere else, we're that's right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. So, well, thank you so much, Shay. Andrea, thank you for handling our Facebook comments. Again, if you're just watching this, share it with some friends. Let them know about Flower Power if you're in the Charlotte area and looking for something fun to do with your family and your kids. And we really appreciate you just sharing your time, because I know how busy you are, Shay. So thank you.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
Come on.